In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro Moros and his counterpart of the Sahrawi Democratic Arab Republic, Brahim Ghali, signed cooperation agreements for the strengthening of bilateral relations. In Argentina, President Alberto Fernandez announced his country's re-entry into the Union of South American Nations, UNASUR. And the Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping signed comprehensive partnership and bilateral strategic cooperation agreements. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic signed 10 cooperation agreements for the 2023-2025 action plan in various fields. The framework cooperation agreements cover the areas of basic and higher education, arts and culture, agriculture, health, aquaculture, and foreign affairs. President Brahim Ghali stressed that the visit to the Venezuelan nation has an important significance, as it coincides with the 40th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries. He also highlighted that the cause of its people is the cause of the Venezuelan people. All the Sahrawi people are proud to belong to such a noble and prestigious tradition of struggle and longed for freedom and independence of Bolivar's homeland. Moreover, he pointed out that signing these important agreements mark their will to intensify the fair cause of the Sahrawi people.
This very important visit, as I have told the President of the Sahrawi Arab Republic, this very important visit by President Abin Ghali ratifies the historical, decisive, unique, and absolute position of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela to support the self-determination, the independence, and the solution of the Sahrawi people.
For his part, the president of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Brahim Ghali, remarked the greatness of the Venezuelan government and people, as well as the greatness of the project President Nicolás Maduro Moros is leading.
Excellence for the government and the Sahrawi people. Venezuela is an example of struggle, firmness, and determination in defense of values and principles. We are absolutely convinced that the project of emancipation and transformation that you lead today for your nation cannot bear witness to an end other than victory, because it is rooted in the will of a united and conscious people.
In an interview for our multimedia TeleSUR, the president of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Brahim Ghali, recognized the courage of the people of Venezuela in the struggle against the sanctions and blockades imposed by the United States.
I believe that there are many ties and bonds that unite us. We have been attacked 47 years ago by our neighbors. They invaded a large part of our territory and they continue to occupy it, and it is the same with the Venezuelan people. Venezuela has always been the object of aggressions for the last decades, the object of unjust sanctions to break their will to resist, and the will of President Maduro not to be submitted to the will of others. And I believe that the Venezuelan people deserve our recognition for the courage of resistance and for gradually overcoming the situation they were imposed on, aimed at strangling the Bolivarian Revolution of Venezuela.
The president of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Brahim Ghali, informed about the negotiations held with the government of Spain to return the sovereignty of the country to the Sahrawi people.
Morocco invaded a foreign territory after a liberation struggle against Spanish colonialism. The day we imposed on the Europeans the will of the Sahrawi people, and we entered into negotiations so that Spain would return the sovereignty to who it belongs to, which is the Sahrawi people. We have been the object of a betrayal by our neighbors at the moment we thought we were going to reap the results of the sacrifice of our people. Throughout many years, our neighbors assaulted us, invaded our territory, continued to occupy a major part of it, and repress the Sahrawi people with the aim of exterminating them and keeping a rich but unknown territory for themselves.
In this context, the president of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Brahim Ghali, affirmed that the abrupt change in the Spanish government's position towards the Sahrawi could be due to Morocco's use of the Israeli spying software Pegasus.
Political parties, the Congress, the Senate, the civil society, that position is totally rejected by the Spanish public opinion, but Sanchez continues to stick to that position.
And why, President?
I believe that the question has been raised by us too. Why? Well, some people relate the twist to Pegasus program, the wiretapping program, alleging there's probably some deadly secret that Morocco discovered.
The Israeli espionage program?
Yes, but the Moroccans have applied it in France and in Spain to the president of the government himself and a few of his cabinet ministers. This is probably one of the reasons.
Finally, the head of state of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Brahim Ghali, reaffirmed that the agreements signed with Venezuela will make it possible to train Sahrawis as specialized doctors.
I believe that all the agreements are important. We can highlight the agreement of education and fundamentally on health, and for us, it is a great achievement for the Sahrawi people to be able to train a specialized doctor here in Venezuela. Here they will feel at home, they will not feel alien or foreigners, and that is an added value. I believe that all the agreements deserve our consideration.
In Argentina, President Alberto Fernandez announced the country's re-entry into UNASUR at a meeting with leaders of the Puebla group at the Casa Rosada. The event took place from 10:50 a.m. local time in the Hall of Indigenous Peoples with the participation of several officials of the executive. The Argentinian president stated that UNASUR must be revitalized as soon as possible for the construction of Latin American unity. President Fernandez also said that if Brazil and Argentina are within the multilateral group, UNASUR will have a new power and it will be possible to move forward so that other brotherly countries may participate again in the organization. Precisely, in Argentina, during the Third International Human Rights Forum, former President of Bolivia, Evo Morales Ayma, reiterated that the forum was convened because of the unfairness of the fight for human rights.
I was thinking, why are we organizing in here? Why are we in this World Forum of Human Rights? For what are we organizing ourselves? For what are the social movements such as peasant workers, middle class, intellectuals? Because there is unfairness in the fight of the authorities for human rights, on the part of individual rights, collective rights, the fight for social demands, but also for structural changes in our economic models.
Let's take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other studies coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping signed two joint statements on comprehensive partnership and bilateral strategic cooperation. The Chinese head of state said that they also signed a memorandum of understanding on the implementation of a development plan in key areas of economic cooperation until 2030. The Russian president stressed that the signing of the agreements fully reflects the special nature of the Russian-Chinese relations, and he also emphasized that they are at the highest level of development in history. Both leaders agreed that the attacks on the Nord Stream gas pipelines should be impartially investigated, while welcoming the Chinese request to put an end to the tensions in Ukraine promoted by the hostilities of some Western governments. Putin expressed during the talks with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping that Moscow will be forced to react if Britain gives Ukraine military supplies, including armor-piercing ammunition, which contains depleted uranium.
It was revealed today that the UK, through the country's Deputy Defense Minister, has not only announced the supply of tanks to Ukraine, but also shells with depleted uranium. It seems that the West has indeed decided to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian, not in words, but in deeds. If this happens, Russia will be forced to react. I mean, the collective West is starting to use weapons with a nuclear component.
In addition, the Russian head of state said cooperation between China and Russia was one of the main agreements that will continue to be strengthened.
Further growth of Russian gas exports will be facilitated by the implementation of the agreement concluded in January on the construction of the Far Eastern gas route, as well as the initiative to build the Power of Serbia 2 gas pipeline through Mongolia.
We have signed a joint statement to deepen our comprehensive partnership and strategic engagement as we enter a new era, and a joint statement on the development plan for key areas of Chinese-Russian economic cooperation for the period up to 2030. Together, President Putin and I summed up the result of the development of bilateral relations over the past 10 years, and agreed that Sino-Russian ties have gone far beyond bilateral relations and are of vital importance for the modern world order and the destiny of mankind.
Now we move on to other topics. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan officially announced on Tuesday his candidacy for the May 14th general elections, in which he will face the only opposition candidate, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. The Supreme Electoral Council had announced a few days ago the list of 36 political parties authorized to participate in the elections, where the Grand National Assembly will also be renewed. President Erdogan will seek re-election for a third 5-year term within a context of recovery efforts after the earthquakes that affected the country in February. According to the polls, the Turkey president comes out as favorite despite the strong criticism his government received from various sectors for what they consider the lack of contingency plans to face natural events of big magnitude in reference to last month's earthquakes. In France, trade unions continue their day-long protests against the pension reform imposed by the government of President Emmanuel Macron. French trade unions are staging a new day of demonstrations across the country on Tuesday, saying they will not stop until the pension reform is cancelled. Various organizations have also described the reform as unjustified, unfair, and brutal. In addition, it has been reported that around 300 people were arrested on Monday following clashes between demonstrators and security forces. A press release from the Central General Workers Center stated that nothing will undermine the determination of the workers, unemployed, young people, and pensioners in response to the rejection of the no-confidence votes tabled by the parliamentarians. And the parliamentary leader of the far-left France Unbowed Party, Mathilde Panot, called on all those who can to turn out en masse for the demonstrations that are scheduled on Thursday, saying it will be a historic day. A new round of strikes and protests has been called, which are expected to once again paralyze public transport in several areas.
I call on all those who can to come to their demonstrations in numbers on Thursday, to go on strike if they can, to contribute to the Strikes Fund. In short, to be a great movement of solidarity, to tell the President of the Republic that we too will not give up, and that he cannot force his way through against an entire people. Today, with the rest of the NUPs, we are going to submit our referral to the Constitutional Council, and we will obviously continue to battle with, as I said, all the tools at our disposal. Thursday is going to be a historic day, and I believe that the President must withdraw his reform as soon as possible.
TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Kenya's opposition leader, Raila Odinga, vowed on Tuesday to continue the campaign of nationwide protests. Odinga's statement came one day after demonstrations marched with clashes saw more than 200 people arrested. At least 4 lawmakers were among those arrested during the protests, including the leaders of Odinga's faction in both houses of parliament. According to Nairobi Police Chief Adam Bungei, the legislators arrested have been released and are to appear in court on Thursday on charges that have not yet been announced. The demonstrations are the first major outbreak of political violence in the East African nation since President William Ruto took office 6 months ago. Opposition leader Raila Odinga claims the election was stolen and cited the high cost of staples as the main cause for the high inflation. Iranian leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei calls on all the country's officials to focus on economic and humanitarian issues. In a nationally televised address on the occasion of the beginning of the Persian New Year on Tuesday, Khamenei congratulated the Iranian people and all nations of the celebration of the Nowruz and highlighted economic development as the most important issue in the country. The top leader stressed the need to prioritize economic activities with the aim of creating prosperity in people's lives and bringing food to their tables. In his opinion, the task cannot be achieved without continuity and detailed planning. He reminded that economic problems are not unique to Iran, as stronger and more advanced economies are suffering from the same difficulties, even bankruptcies and extraordinary debts. The Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said the Islamic Republic is not upset with European nations and is ready to work with them if they do not blindly follow U.S. policies.
Our relationship with the West had weakened. We had no relations with the U.S. and our ties with Europe had weakened, but we have strengthened our ties with Asia 100%. And we will continue this. We will continue political, economic, technical, and scientific relationship with the main sectors of Asian countries.
Khamenei also referred to Western accusations that Iran is involved in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict.
They falsely claim that Iran is participating in the Ukraine war. Not at all. Such a thing is not true. We have no participation. In fact, the United States started the Ukraine war to expand NATO eastward. Currently, the United States is benefiting the most out of the Ukraine war.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.